people were stung and surprised. This happened in their community, our local community.
Was there any hint or suspicion that this was a man on the run who'd faked his death in Scotland?
Completely shocked. I was stunned, completely shocked, you know, I just couldn't believe it. It wasn't just me, it fooled a lot of other people here in Spain as well.
This is where a con man would come if they hoped never to be seen again. The perfect setting for a fake death, a getaway, and the start of a new life. It had the look and feel of a suicide. Facing accusations of rape from women he'd met on Tinder, James Clacher dumped his clothes and car here and vanished. Messages had been sent suggesting the gym manager was no longer alive. The hunt for the predator who preyed on people using dating apps came to a dead end until a tip-off to Sky News changed everything. And then came the getaway. He managed to fly under the radar and under the noses of the authorities, and he used the Costa del Sol as his hideaway. And that's where we are away to now to see how he managed to con the community there.
The weather in Malaga is a lot nicer than it was back home in Glasgow, current 28 degrees Celsius.
This is one of Spain's most popular places, and it would be where he would call home. But it's the beginning of what would be an extraordinary 2-year effort to evade the crimes he'd left behind. His journey took him in the opposite direction from the likes of Marbella. He was heading off the beaten track along the coastline that hugs the Mediterranean Sea. Driving into the mountains and slipping into Spanish local life, arriving here in the town of Nerja, where around 22,000 people live.
So it's kind of vast, isn't it? You've got the hills and, it's, as you say, it's popular with tourists. And is that maybe part of the attraction potentially for someone like James Clacher to come here and set up a new life?
Yeah, probably, because here we have more than 30 nationalities. We are 30% of the people living here are foreign people, especially British people from the UK. And this is the best place to be no one.
The perfect place then for someone to hide?
Yeah, probably, because this is not a big town, it's a small one. We are only 22,000 people. People here live very quiet, and if you have committed some criminals, you can live here and nobody knows you.
So he managed to persuade people in the gym and in this community that he was someone he wasn't?
Yeah, probably. He don't say anything about his past, and he lives here like a new man.
Over the years, the Costa del Sol has had a reputation as a location where big British crime bosses come to hide. It was once known as the Costa del Crime. But the difference here is that James Clacher was no criminal mafia boss, he was no criminal mastermind, and yet he managed to play the system for so long.
Clacher was clearly a familiar face in this part of the world.
Do you know this man? You think he was in here? We know that James Clacher was fairly well connected within the fitness industry back in Scotland, so it's probably no big surprise that when he fled here to the Costa del Sol, he would set up a similar life. And we've managed to establish that he lived and worked in this area. And clearly, he was a key member of the gym community here. In fact, he attended this place, we understand, on an almost daily basis. Now, from the conversations that we've managed to have with people here, he attended, they say he was friendly and he was welcoming, but clearly they didn't know it was all a lie.
I was given a tip-off that led us to this apartment complex for residents on the outskirts of town. And it's interesting because we have learned that James Clacher was working here as a gardener. He was getting paid, he was employed by all intents and purposes. The interesting fact is they don't know who James Clacher is. They know a man under the guise of Johnny Wilson, the man who came and went around these streets on a daily basis. And they are really scared to speak, given what we now know about the real man who was operating on these streets. Clacher had managed to start afresh. He forged new friendships and even got into a relationship with a local woman. So I've just been given some information that one of James Clacher's friends, who he managed to hoodwink when he arrived here in Spain, doesn't want to speak to us on camera to protect his identity, but he is willing to take a call from us, and I've got a number for him. So let's give him a phone and see if he'll speak to us.
Hello?
Hi, is that Matt?
Yes, speaking.
It's Connor Gillis here from Sky News in the UK. When James Clacher first arrived here, how did you meet him?
I was seeing him as a nutritionist, and he came highly recommended, and actually became quite good friends with him.
What did he say about his past and his life and why he'd arrived in Spain?
He said that he was in the parachute regiment, and he came to Spain for a new start. And I think he might have told a lot of people a lot of lies. But yeah, he just said he came to Spain for a new start. He was really nice, actually, I have to say. He was very charming. Well, like I say, I became quite good friends with him, didn't realise. But yeah, I was going to go out hiking with him, you know, he invited me around to his house to eat and everything. So, you know, he was a very nice guy.
During that time, was there any hint or suspicion that this was a man on the run who'd faked his death in Scotland?
No, not at all. But looking back now, he used to send me pictures of him up a mountain, and he would always be facing away from the camera, so he'd never show his face.
As you can see, this is a town on the Costa del Sol that is very popular with tourists, but it also has a significant British expat population, and it's easy to see how a fugitive could go undetected for so long. But the moment that everything changed for James Clacher was that anonymous tip-off to Sky News. Holidaymakers here in this town who had an encounter with a man who called himself Johnny, 3 separate occasions over the space of almost a year. And ultimately, that international manhunt ended at this particular gym on the beach.
They finally found their man, swooping in on this, the very beach he'd been taking cash from locals as a yoga instructor. The fugitive was detained and eventually extradited back to Scotland.
Yes, obviously people were stung and surprised. This happened in their community, our local community. Somebody who'd obviously been living here with us, which we had no idea about. And I think it came as a surprise. He managed to integrate locally one way or another. And he was obviously here for a while, but obviously he managed to mingle in.
Surely a British guy getting arrested on the beach down there doesn't happen all the time.
No, it doesn't, fortunately, and particularly here in Clacher, it really doesn't happen at all. So probably at the day, I mean, it's a bit of a 7-day miracle. It happened and everybody was shocked. We don't have that very much here at all, I have to say. It's a very nice, safe, good area of space to be in. I mean, it's nice to live here. We don't really have that very often. Well, at all. It's the first time I've heard of it anyway.
The international game of cat and mouse ended here where it all began, back in Scotland. At this court, the fugitive now convicted and facing the consequences of his crimes. When you found out what had happened when he was arrested here in the Costa del Sol, what went through your mind then? The man that you thought was a friend was actually a complete fraud and a rapist.
Yeah, I was completely shocked. I was stunned, completely shocked, you know. I just couldn't believe it, you know, to be fooled like that by someone. It wasn't just me, it fooled a lot of other people here in Spain as well.
How has this whole episode been for you, your family, the rest of your friends here in Spain to kind of, you know, essentially be hoodwinked by this man?
Well, I mean, people were very relieved, so that I think they saw that I, you know, had a narrow escape, obviously, you know, just a complete fantasist.
Clacher may have pulled the wool over the eyes of those he met and interacted with in Scotland and Spain, but now back from the dead and behind bars, despite his desperate efforts to dodge it.